All right, guys, welcome back. All right, so this is going to be a possibly interesting discussion. But it was something that I thought of as I woke up this morning and was greeted with a news headline that this trial in America had come to an end. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Mehmet. Are you talking about? Okay, what is it you're referencing? Do you mean in the previous hour? Do you mean the links that I just shared? Do you mean this topic?
I mean, about the topic the link you shared.
Okay, you talking about the logical fallacies?
I mean about the court issue about
Okay, yeah. Sure.
George Floyd.
Yeah, sure.
But first, if you wanna say something like introduction, you go first, Professor, because
Sure.
later on I can speak.
Yeah, it's just I'm just gonna go just a couple of sentences here because the main thing that what got me thinking wasn't necessarily about the case itself, but it was about that. So in America, the way that this particular case is done, the way that most criminal cases are done, is that the prosecution, the people who are saying this person committed a crime, they present their case, they call their witnesses and all of this. The defense, they also present their case and they say this is why he's innocent, this is why he didn't do what you're saying he did. The judge in most of these cases, their only responsibility is to kind of maintain order, right? They're like the referee in a football match, right? Where their job is to just kind of make sure the rules are followed, that people don't do anything they're not supposed to do, that kind of thing. But the people that determine the winner in this situation, the winner of this case, is actually this 12-person jury. And so the jury, and I've actually served on a jury, not for a murder case, not for anything of that extreme level, but the jury, they sit there the whole case and they listen to all the evidence. They listen to the evidence. They listen to it. And then, yeah, similar to an academic jury, yeah. And then after the case is over, they go into a private room. They talk about the case. They come to a decision, and they come back and they determine whether or not the person should be found guilty or not guilty. And in America, specifically, the reason why we use these terms guilty and not guilty is something that I, as an American child, learned all throughout growing up, was that in America's judicial system, we are what we call presumed innocent until proven guilty. So it's you're as long as you have not been convicted of a crime, and until the evidence proves that you absolutely did the crime, people are supposed to think of you as not guilty, as innocent. So when the not guilty verdict comes for some people, they're not necessarily saying we know for a fact that he didn't do the crime. What we're saying is there's enough evidence that he might not have done the crime. A reasonable doubt is what we call it. Okay, so the reason why I'm getting into this is one special thing about this case, about a murder case, is that in order to convict, all 12 jury members have to agree. So in most criminal cases, whether or not somebody stole, money from a bank or something like that, you might just need to get a majority of the jury saying he was guilty or not guilty to be on that, to have that verdict come back. But in a murder case, it's required that all 12 members, unanimous decision, that if even one person says nope, he's not guilty, then the verdict comes back not guilty, or they come back with what's called a hung jury. All right, so a couple of things to talk that I was thinking about, we were talking about, and Mehmet, I want you to be able to open this up as well. So I want you to be able to open this up to what you would like to talk about as well. But how are criminal cases done in Turkey? Because in some criminal cases, in some cases, there is no jury. There's just the judge. The judge makes a decision. The judge hears the evidence, makes a decision, and it's final. It's done. In some cases, it's a jury, but how are things done in Turkey? Or if you're not from Turkey, if that's not your home country, how are things done in your home country for these things? And what are some of the benefits and disadvantages of different ways of doing these criminal trials? All right, so that's what I was thinking we could discuss. But Mehmet, you also can open it up as well to anything you might want to discuss too.
Well, okay, Professor. I have some words about this topic. So I won't talk about the technical decision side of the topic, like juries or a judge like evaluate the cases. Like I want to say, how can I say? Like one of the most likely avenues of appeal is the huge publicity given to the case, like propaganda, like public awareness. So if something happened affects the most of the population or the whole population, uh, like this might have influenced the jury. You know what I mean? So, I mean, like, I also emphasize that when the jury convicting a person accused of a crime, uh, they might influence it by the common ethics or laws in the country. So, because they are changeable in different countries of the world, like how can I say? I can give an example from my country. You know, it was on the news. Uh, there's an actor and filmmaker named Halil Sezai. He wanted to capture a movie in a residential area where he lives, and one of his neighbor, who was an old man, didn't approve Halil Sezai's filmmaking decision in the residential area and tell his opinion to Halil Sezai. So Halil Sezai wasn't happy due to old man's decision, and he battered him, like punched him. The court found Halil Sezai not guilty in the first place, and he has been released. This moment wasn't welcomed by the community. I mean, the people. People wasn't happy about that moment. So our community condemned that decision and made reaction, like made public awareness using social media, for example. Uh, After a while, Khalid Sezai was arrested due to the reaction of the society. So yeah, that's all. I mean, also the social media might influence that.
Yeah, I do wonder that as well. How much of the uh, publicity of the case may have influenced the jury? Because for one thing is one of the other things that the American court system tries to provide is people on the jury who don't know anything about the case. So, in other words, your mom or your best friend would not be allowed to serve on a jury for you. But also at the same time, the attorney, the lawyer for the prosecution, the one that's saying he committed a crime, that somebody that knows him really well or her really well would also not be allowed to serve on the jury. So they want to try to get people who don't know anything about the case, don't know anything about the people involved, to be on the jury, so that they can be what we call an impartial jury, something that's where their personal friendships, their personal biases will not impact their decision in how to determine the guilt or innocence, of the person. But in a case like this, it'd be almost impossible to find someone who didn't know anything about this case, right? So yeah, so the publicity definitely probably impacted, but truth is, it impacted it both ways, because there are friends of mine who both very strongly said that this particular person, this police officer, was guilty and should be convicted. And there were lots of friends of mine who said, no, he didn't do anything wrong. He was doing his job, and it was a tense situation, and we need to give police freedom to be able to control things the way that they need to. And so I imagine that it was hard finding a jury that was both sides. Yeah. Okay. So how are things done in Turkey? So do you guys have juries as well, or do you have do judges make decisions? How are those decisions made in a criminal case in Turkey? Anybody, or your home country if it's not Turkey.
I think here no jury is involved, but there are professionals are investigating the case. Each side has their own lawyers, and there is a people called savcıs. I don't know the English counterpart. They are investigating.
Prosecutor. Prosecutor.
Prosecutor, I see. Prosecutors are investigating the case, and they are trying to arrange the technical responsibilities, and they are taking the professional comments about the case. Most of the time, things are mostly left to juries. Excuse me, not jury. What was it called? Hakim? Judge most of the time interprets the laws. So public opinion is not included in Turkey, as far as I know.
So if you were angry at me, and maybe I gave you a bad grade in the course, and you came and you assaulted me or you killed me, and the prosecutor, we say the I'll learn the word from you later. Savcı, okay. Savcı, okay. And he came and he said Melih killed the teacher and he should be charged with the crime. There would not be a jury that would decide this. It would be like a judge that would decide this.
Yeah, basically judge would give the final decision, but prosecutor would direct the judge to how to decide, and therefore their opinion is really important in our cases. But public opinion sometimes matters, because if you can bring enough public attention, you can basically make one side is more. You can give upper hand to one side when it comes to domestic violence and that sort of stuff. Sometimes public is involved and they truly follow the trials. One of the recent events was between two famous Turkish people, Sıla and Ahmet Kural. It's said that Ahmet Kural hit Sıla, which is a female singer in Turkey. So case continued, but as far as I know, since if there is a possibility of female being attacked or beaten, most of the time public will take the side of the female. So, but in the end of the case, I think there were no evidence found that Ahmet Kural actually beat the Sıla. So case is dismissed. But even after that, effect of the public opinion affected Ahmet Kural because, you know, even if you didn't do it, people think you did it. They will continue to think you did it because once upon a time they think that you somehow hit and, you know, beat her. So I think his career suffered greatly because of that case. There are multiple occasions like that. Public opinion only matters if case gets really big. That's what I meant for this talk.
I see.
Can I say about?
Yes, please.
I agree with Melih and Mehmet, but there is a reason behind this. I think the public doesn't trust our law. The reason behind this is that most of them think that our law system, like other systems in our country, is corrupted. Most of people thinks like this, and because of this, they have prejudged about the cases.
I understand.
That also brings the, I think, weakness of the jury system because juries are emotional people and they might affect from the media and, you know, out sources that can affect their decisions, and we definitely need to make trials are not affected by emotions. We want them to set up by the rules and, you know, laws. So I think jury system has more, you know, harm than benefits in the case of law. I'm not saying our system is perfect, but instead of letting people decide, letting, you know, professional people carry on the trials would make more sense because you are deciding basically a person's fate. You cannot let random people intervene with that.
So, Millie, you actually introduced what I was going to bring up here. So, what are some of the what are so he brought up a negative side, a disadvantage of the jury system. So, what are some of the benefits and the disadvantages of each side, each way of doing this, right? Because there, you know, I imagine that a jury system must have some benefit, otherwise nations wouldn't use them, right? But at the same time, having a single judge who makes a decision must have some benefit as well. Otherwise, other nations wouldn't use that, right? So what are some of the benefits and the disadvantages of each way of doing things? What do you think?
Sir, as far as I know, until the course ends, the case closes, the jury is not allowed to communicate the outward. Is that true? So
They are
they don't.
sequestered, yeah.
So they don't follow the news about that case to not to be affected by the social. And this is a good thing, but I think the jury system can't be applied to all countries and all cultures. And I think every country has laws for various crimes. The matter is not giving the judge according to the crime. It's obvious, it's defined. The matter is whether the suspect is guilty or not, or how guilty. What's the degree of the guilty? What's the reasons beneath the crime is important for the case. And the judge not being the one to decide the suspect is guilty or not is not a good approach, I think. To do this, being a professional, not needed. The proofs must be solid, that everyone can understand that proofs.
Good point. So, Isalkan, you also had something?
Hi, yes, I wanted to speak about the court system in Kyrgyzstan. So Kyrgyzstan is a post-Soviet country, which is typically described by the strongly corrupted system. And unfortunately, today it is not just the corruption widespread in the country, it is also like poor economics, poor infrastructure in every sense. Judicial system is particularly corrupted, and there are no how to say it, it is not being monitored. The judicial system is not being monitored. There are lots of foreign sponsors, investors who are trying to modificate, integrate certain things like jury in the court system. So I have looked up in the internet. In 2009, a law was signed in Kyrgyzstan which tells that jury should be integrated in the court system. But it is 2021 today, and it is still it has not still been integrated. Why? Because they say it is because of money outage, because of like financial stuff, but it is not so, because investors invest money, foreign investors, but it is the corruption that eats all of the money. And secondly, it is the culture. I think our culture won't easily integrate this jury thing in the court system. So so I don't think that the judge, the only judge who has the final word, is beneficial at all. I don't see any benefit in it as long as the system is corrupted. That's it.
Thank you, Isalkan. So in Kyrgyzstan, you said they have a judge, but you said they signed a law that said they should integrate juries. So do they not have juries at all?
No, still no juries, only the judge.
Okay. Does anyone here, Mehmet, I think that's exactly his point. I wanted to ask this because it sounds like, other than America, does anyone else in this group, does their country primarily rely on juries for a criminal case? Wow. Because the other thing, because I was going to ask about how someone would even get on a jury. So, like, for example, for me, I have served on a jury before in a very low level criminal case, and the way that I got selected was actually, it's by random. Like, they just send a notice to your home that's, if you're a registered voter, they send you a message to your home saying you need to come and possibly serve on a jury. And so yeah. So okay, so what do you guys think about, again, let's go back to, so what is a benefit then? Because Isel, you shared a very clear disadvantage, a very big problem, potential problem with the single judge system. But what are some potential advantages? Why? And I don't mean for the people who are, paying the money. I don't mean the people that Murat Can is suggesting. I'm meaning for other countries, maybe, I don't know. But what is an advantage of having a single judge over a whole jury for in general, not for corruption situations, but in normal non-corruption situations, what might be a benefit for having a judge as opposed to a multiple member jury?
May I add some advantages?
Yeah.
In the single judge system, also just consider the previous same cases. For example, if it is a criminal cases, it considers previous cases and other things. So it's like a literature. I mean, in the past, we given a decision for this type of criminal for this result, and we need to make this decision again. Maybe it means stability. I mean, because in the jury system, all jury members doesn't know the previous cases or something like that. So it can be a little bit tricky, I think. I mean, judge is more professional than jury, so it can be a beneficial for crime management or something like that. I mean,
sir, I want to say that a disadvantage of the jury system is the lawyers are very clever about playing the words and about playing on the jury's sentiments, and they get sentimental and they don't decide objectively on these situations. As far as I saw from the Hollywood movies, but this thing can be possible. This can be true, and this is maybe this may be a disadvantage.
Murat Can, especially the film that you sent us a link to, definitely talks about this, about that some of the jury members are very emotional about the case, and they're choosing the guilty not guilty verdict based on emotions rather than just the evidence as it was presented. And so yeah, so that's a great example of why a jury system might have some problems. And to go back to Ismail's point as well, I think one of the things he was saying was, or at least something that came to mind while he was talking, was that in a single judge situation, you have consistency. He said that he had previous experience from previous cases, right? Or as Berk points out in the chat here, that the judge is experienced and knowledgeable compared to your average jury. And for me, one of the things I think about is the consistency, right? That if it's the same judge in multiple cases, like he or she is going to probably judge the same way. So take, for example, if this course, like for this course, you guys, I mean, you guys are here, you know what you're doing. I mean, I don't have much concern about those of you in this course, having a pass fail in the situation in this course. But for my other courses, for my first year course and my second year course that I'm teaching, some of those students will not do as well as others. But the hope is that because I'm the one that's me and myself and my teaching assistants, that we're the ones grading the material for the course, that there's consistency in grading, that if two students do similar work, they will get similar grades, right? And so that's the hope. Whereas in the jury system, the same jury doesn't always meet for multiple cases, right? In fact, it's very rare that two cases would get the same exact jury. Be almost impossible, I would think. But the point is that one jury listens to a case, rules in a certain way, and the next jury might hear almost the exact same case and rule exactly in the exact opposite decision, because they're a different set of people. They're not the same. So there's not as much consistency in that. All right. So yeah. So we've talked a little bit about the benefits of the single judge and the maybe even, as Murat Can has pointed out, some of the problems, the disadvantages of a jury system. What about the other way? What about what's other than what we talked about already, what we talked about in terms of the potential corruption, like other than that, what is a potential problem with, well, before I get to that, let me read your comment here. Okay, yeah. So it's, we're all corrupted. We're all imperfect human beings. Yes, I would agree with that. But let's think about, okay, so what is a general either benefit to a jury system or a disadvantage to a single judge system? What do you guys think about that?
May I add something another else
Sure.
about the disadvantage in the single judge system? If case is unseen, I mean it is a new case than previous cases. It's not like previous cases. I mean it's a totally new case from the laws or something else, laws changing. I mean, in that case, single jury system is a failing. I mean, because it decides to whole next cases. It needs to be considered well and decided well. I mean,
All right, so good comment. That so for the rest of you, what can you think of as a either a benefit to the jury system, because we talked about the opposite, so benefit to the jury system, or a disadvantage, a problem with the single judge system? There are no benefits to a jury system other than what we talked about, and there's no disadvantages. Right. Okay. That's a good point, Beck. That the jury, a judge, then you're dependent on one person and how they view things, and so it's very much, it's like, okay, so if this person, which we hope, we hope that the judge is unbiased as much as possible, but it is true that all of us, all human beings, have biases. We all have a bias of some kind, right? And so if it's a single judge, then whatever his or her biases are, whatever bias he or she might have, is going to impact their judgment in a case, possibly. Whereas with the jury situation, by having multiple different viewpoints kind of working together, we might have a better, well-rounded thing, right? Yeah. Yes, jury system is useful when it includes wise persons. Newman, one of the interesting things about that is that juries oftentimes are kind of made up of people who don't really want to be there. So, at least in America, I'll put that way. In America, that's how it is. Right. So if we have a group of a specific size, then we can reduce bias, and especially Mehmet, because in America, the way that juries are created is both sides. So what happens is, so for example, when I served on a jury, there were some people before me who were asked to leave, who were rejected from the jury, and the reason why was because we sat there, the prosecutor, the we call him prosecutor, it's the one who's saying, the lawyer who's saying, savcı, right, the lawyer who's saying this person committed a crime and I'm going to prove it. They asked us questions. They might say, oh, have you, and I mean, it could be anything. It could be stuff like, how many, like if maybe the defendant, maybe the person that is accused of the crime, maybe he's a black man, right? In the case that I was a jury for, the defendant, the accused person was a black man, and they might say, well, Mr. Lede, how many black friends do you have? And I'd have to answer that question. They say, oh, how many children do you have, or how many this do you have? Have you ever been to this area of the city where the crime occurred? They might ask me a question like that, and based on my answer, either the prosecution or the defense might think that I am too biased one way or another. All right, that I am too biased to be an impartial person on this jury, and so they would ask me, okay, we don't want that guy, he's too biased, we don't want him to serve on the jury. Whereas, so one side might say he's too biased, in that way I don't want him. The other side might say he's biased towards my position, I definitely want him on the jury. Right? So it kind of works both ways. And what usually ends up happening is you get, it's a 12-person jury in America usually, and you get 6 people who are generally the prosecution. One side kind of likes them, and 6 people who the other side kind of likes them, and basically each one tries to win over with their arguments the other side. So, all right. So, but as Mehmet points out, if we have a large enough group, then hopefully we have enough different viewpoints that kind of work together to make a good, accurate, as Isa points out, accurate decision for this. All right. Okay. So no system's perfect, right? We pointed out some problems and some good things about each way of doing things. All right. So if any of you develops a judge system that is perfect and works well and does not open itself up to potential corruption, let us know. We got to figure out how to do this, right? So maybe we can design it, right? Maybe we can design a system like that using AI, right? We can have AI be our judge and court and jury and everything, right? All right. So I just wanted to talk about that today because it just had me thinking about how different ways of doing things, how the different systems in Turkey and in America and Kyrgyzstan and other countries, how they decide what to do when someone is accused of a crime and how to decide guilt or innocence. All right. So wanted to talk through that today, and I'm glad that you guys all joined in this discussion. Yeah, you're right about, yeah. Gonna have a hacker, yeah. All right. If there are no other comments, then we'll go ahead and end there for today. Anyone else? No? Going once, going twice. All right. Well, I'll see you guys in 1 week. So 2 weeks from today, okay? 2 weeks from today is when we will start presentations. Okay, so if there is a major problem with where I have put you on the schedule, I need to know this. Or if you want to switch with someone, I need to know this, okay? Because 2 weeks from today, we will start presentations. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good afternoon. Oh, and have a great Chojuk Baidam, okay? Everybody have a great Chojuk Baidam on Friday. Unfortunately, we just got word that I think they're going to actually extend the lockdown to Friday for this week because of the holiday. So, I was so excited about actually getting to get out for Chojuk Baidam, but Malasaf. All right. So, I'll see you guys in 1 week and have a good weekend.